The purpose of today's video is to give you a couple of basic inventory management tips, as well as what to do with some of the loot that you're going to be picking up. Should you scrap it, vendor it, disenchant it, what are the advantage of doing each of these things, as well as some basics on crafting. So, without any further ado, let's get things started. We're going to go straight into our stash right here. And if you're like me or a cheapskate, you bought the cheapest version of the game and you're going to have access to 4 stash tabs. In regards to should you buy stash tabs right now or not, I wouldn't recommend you even touching that until you get to the end game. So don't worry about it. Not to mention that there's going to be discounts, according to what I'm told from most of the people that play Path of Exile. There's going to be discounts for stash tabs like every 3 weeks or every other month or something like that. So wait for those before you spend those currency points that you got from purchasing whichever version of the game you happen to purchase. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about is you got 4 stash tabs. So what can you do to make the best of each of these stash tabs, right? So you can right click these stash tabs, and this basically allows you to set some affinities. What are affinities? It means that whenever you put any loot on it, then whenever you put loot on stash, it will automatically save it to a specific location. So for instance, I have this stash tab right here to be set for currency and essences, as well as delirium, which I don't even know what that is, but I was just like, you know, whenever I pick up things that are of this general nature, I think these are kind of like currency type things. They're all going to end up in this stash tab. So to give you guys an idea, if I go ahead and I move this Orb of Transmutation to my inventory, by the way, you can control click and it will move stuff back and forth, right? And then we're going to put it back on stash tab number 1. So we're going to move away. I'm going to go to your stash tab. Because I have those affinities set up on the second tab, once I control click to send this directly to my stash, it doesn't go into the one that's active. Do this again, doesn't go into the one that's active, it's going to go over here where I set the affinity for it. I have a couple of affinities set, some really basic stuff, so I have all of my gems in the same place, even though I manually move these around, so the affinity is not super useful. But like whenever I pick up a gem, if I just want to come to town, drop it into a stash tab, it will end up over there. You can set a couple of more basic things. You can do like flasks if you want to save a couple of different flasks, unique items, which is these things, which to be honest, this one doesn't even have an affinity. I've just manually placed these in here. But you know, just something to help you organize things so that you don't have to spend as much time in town. So you're just going to come to town and you're like, oh, I'm in a hurry, I want to get back to playing the game. So you're just going to come to your stash and dump all of the currency items instantly by control clicking, and everything's going to end up in the right spot. So do explore a little bit with this affinity system, play around a little bit and see what you end up liking. But that's just some basic tips for inventory management. Now let's talk about some of the loot that you're going to be picking up. Now I've carefully selected a couple of loot items that we have right here. So we have 2 superior items, 2 blue items we should have, as well as a couple of socketed items and some rare items, right? So one of the first things that you want to do whenever you come to town, you're going to look for the hooded one. At the beginning of the game, that's not going to be unlocked. You're going to encounter this character a little bit later through Act 1, but eventually the hooded one is going to become available. And he kind of works like Deckard Cain if you've ever played Diablo, so you can come up to him and you can just click to identify items, and that means that you don't have to spend your scrolls of identify to identify different items. You just click this dude, he identifies everything for you. So he's always your first stop when you get to town. Go to the hooded one, identify all of your items. Then when you're done identifying your items, take a look at them. Now the reason why it's important to take a look at it is because unlike a lot of other ARPGs, when it comes to this game, sometimes you might get an item that has a couple of base stats that are actually very, very good. And you might want to consider using the crafting stuff in order to enhance that item. So, for instance, this particular crossbow was actually given to me by somebody from the audience. But I know what you guys are going to say, oh man, +3 to level all projectile skills. It didn't actually have that when it was given to me. As a matter of fact, I don't even remember if it had plus 22% critical damage bonus. You guys can actually see this on stream when it was given to me. The main reason this person gave it to me is because this thing came with a modifier of 109 increased physical damage, and this particular version of the crossbow comes with grenade skills, which is very important to me because I'm running a grenade skill type of character, right? And when they gave it to me, all it had was the additional damage, and I was like, this is a lot of damage. This freaking great. Good roll for physical damage. And so I actually crafted this. I added the 2 sockets, which weren't in there. By crafting means I upgraded to a rare. And when I upgraded to a rare was when it got the +3 level to all projectile skills, which was incredibly lucky of me. But it was a ton of fun. But basically that's just to say that just because there's a blue item doesn't mean that it can't be useful. So to give you guys an idea, a blue item that I have on my stash that I'm considering crafting into is this blue ring over here that actually has 30% fire resistance, which is very, very good. It also has 13 evasion rating, which is not the best thing ever, but it's okay too. And when I added the first additional blue thing, it gave me +3 to all attributes. And I was like, oh, that sounds pretty nice. So this is one of the items that I'm considering doing a little bit of crafting on, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second when we actually get into the crafting portion of the video. So you've picked up all of this loot. You're going to want to look at the loot, see if anything has the stats that you want. And if it does, then you want to consider you want to keep the item. You don't want to keep the item. You want to save it for crafting, not save it for crafting. And again, it is important. Now, let's say, for instance, that you are someone that could really use an antler focus. You're some type of cast or whatever, and we picked up an antler focus that has a socket on it. And you're like, oh man, I've been really looking for like an offhand thing. I would very much like this to be good. Now, we're going to risk a couple of crafting materials, see if we can make it better. I'm not going to use this item because I'm not a caster, but I just figured this would be a good example to show you guys. So we're going to save this item for crafting, and everything else we want to get rid of. Nothing else in here has anything that we actually want, right? So what are we going to do with the white items? White items that have no properties on them and you're not planning on using them, these you just sell. So you're going to come up to Una, you go like, okay, buy or sell items. I don't want this. So you control click it. Boom, it's gone. You sold it. That goes for gold. Okay. Whenever you sell something, you're going to get gold. Gold is a resource that can be used to buy stuff from vendors. So like, let's say, oh, now I can come over here and maybe buy a weapon. Maybe select a weapon off of this vendor that is something that has some stats that I might want. Like, oh, look at this, 23% increased elemental damage with attacks. Maybe you're running some type of elemental warrior, plus 11 to strength. This might be something that you would pick up and then do a little bit of crafting with it and, you know. But that's what you would use gold for. Buy items or respecking or, you know, it's just a currency that you use for a bunch of different stuff. So, white items that do nothing, you sell those. Now, blue items and rare items that you don't really have any use for, you're going to disenchant. So we're going to go over here and we're going to disenchant. However, notice that we have a blue item here, but this one has a socket. Now, I would not recommend you to disenchant items that have a socket. And we'll go over why. These items are some of the items that you're going to want to scrap for a very specific reason. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to disenchant this because we don't need it. We're going to disenchant this yellow helm. We also don't need that. Going to disenchant this mask. We don't need it. And disenchant this particular belt. Now notice that whenever you put something up for disenchant, it's going to tell you what you're going to get. So in this case, you're going to get regal shards for the rare materials, and you're going to get transmutation shards for the blue ones. So there you go. These are the things that we're going to be disenchanting because we don't need these blues, we don't need these yellows. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of them. So that gives us a little bit of currency. Now, when you get 10 of these, they become an orb of transmutation. So if we go over here to the stash and we look at the orbs of transmutation, orb of transmutation upgrades a normal item to a magic item with 1 modifier. So you can basically upgrade an item to become magical from white. And then you have another one which augments a magic item with a new random modifier, which is an orb of augmentation. You're going to be picking these up loads. So these two you want to experiment with a lot. Okay? The orb of transmutation and orb of augmentation, you might as well treat these as completely disposable. Okay? So whenever you have anything that has even an inkling of a chance to become an item that you're interested in, go ahead and use those as much as you want. Now, items that are actually pretty decent to be used in this could be items that potentially already have a socket because you don't have to waste material socketing them, or items that are superior. Right? So if you want to like upgrade an item, that item already being superior is a good thing because you're going to get additional quality from it. But anyways, we're not looking to upgrade any of these or even this one. So what do we do with these? You're going to go up to the salvage bench. By the way, this is not going to be available at the beginning of the game. It is another one of those features that you unlock while you are playing through Act 1. However, if you happen to encounter superior items or socketed items, do not vendor them before you get the salvage bench. Save those in your stash until you unlock this salvage bench. You're going to thank me later, okay? But anyways, you're going to go up to the salvage. This just gives you this hammer thing. And now you can go ahead and scrap some of these items. So we're going to scrap the Superior Guarded Helm. And that is going to give us an Armorer's Scrap. And this just straight up increases the quality of a piece of armor. So after scrapping that superior piece of armor, let's say, for instance, oh man, I really like, I don't know, I guess my armor is all right. I'm going to use one of these. I really like my armor, right? It's got 56 life, 13 dexterity, 19 lightning resistance. This is great. I like this armor. You can right-click it. Boom. And now this armor has plus 4% quality. It increases its armor, its evasion rating. It basically makes it a better piece of armor. So that's why you want to save some of these things. Superior weapons will also give you something that will allow you to increase the quality of weapons. Like if you see over here, my weapon is at plus 11% quality. So picking up superior items off of the ground is actually super important, because then you can come in here and salvage them for currency items that are really good for engaging with the crafting system of the game, right? But anyways, like I said, we're not going to be doing anything else with these particular items, so we're going to scrap them. Now, when you scrap one of these, it's going to give you an Artificer's Shard. And when you get 10 of these, you're going to get an Artificer's Orb. Now, what do Artificer's Orbs do? They are going to add a rune socket to a martial weapon or armor. So for instance, if I wanted to, I could put a socket in this piece of armor because I have 3 of these Artificer's Orbs, right? So these are very valuable. This is why you want to keep all of your socketed items and do not vendor them, do not disenchant them, because this is actually a somewhat scarce resource, okay? So superior items and socketed items, you scrap. In my opinion, if they're rare, you're going to have to make a decision. Do I want the Regal Orb? Because the Regal Shard gives you eventually the resources to make a Regal Orb, which is what allows you to change a magic item into a rare item, which is what we did here. Remember, I told you that this was given to me as a magic item, and then I upgraded it to a rare using the Regal Orb. So whenever you break down, you disenchant a rare item, you're going to get a Regal Orb. So if you have a rare item with a socket, you have to decide what's more valuable for me right now, the Regal Orb or the socket item. And, you know, if you want the socket item, you scrap it. If you want the Regal Orb, you're going to want to disenchant it, all right? So, as a matter of fact, if you can see here, we have 8 Regal Shards. I'm going to put 2 more. Boom, becomes a Regal Orb. We had 2, now we have 3. Then we're going to put some more Transmutation Shards in there as well. And I'm going to store away all of my resources that I've gotten. Then I forgot to break down this hat as well. There, that's another 2 armor upgrade thingamajigs. And now to the part where, like I said, we're going to be crafting this item. So I'm pretending that I would want an antler focus, and I would want to craft it. So we have a white one, comes with a socket already, so has some value to it. So we're going to put it in here. We're going to go like, okay, number 1, we're going to go Orb of Transmutation. Boom. That's actually not too bad. We got +1 level to all spell skills. Actually, I don't know how good that is because I don't really play magic. I don't really play spellcasters or anything like that, but sounds pretty good. And then you go ahead and you do, okay, now let's add another random modifier. You can have up to 2 random modifiers here. Now we got 11 maximum mana. Not really that great. At this point, if I'm a spellcaster, I'm probably thinking, I don't think this is really worth it, so I probably wouldn't waste a Regal Orb on it. But let's say for whatever reason you actually got something really cool here, right? Instead of the 11 max mana, you got something else. You can then go and add a Regal Orb into it, and that is going to make it rare, and add another modifier on. And then, if you like the modifier that you got there, then you can also add an Exalted Orb and increase it even further. Now, keep in mind, okay? Regal Orbs and Exalted Orbs are a little bit... It's something that you want to be stingy with, so do not spend these just willy-nilly. I believe that they've recently buffed the drop chance of Regal Orbs, but like me, let me tell you, I've spent way more of these Regal Orbs than I should have at the beginning of the game, so keep those things in mind. Now, there are other things that you should also keep in your mind, which is you want to always check your vendors every time that you level up, because particularly if you're struggling with getting drops or something like that, you want to check your vendors for potential things that you can get. Because like I told you, let's say for instance, this weapon actually has 2 things that I would really like. you can like take that weapon and then you can upgrade it using potentially a Regal Orb and get a much better weapon, right? And that is part of the system that I feel like a lot of people are not engaging with all that much. Then there's also gambling, which in this town, that's going to be Finn. So you can basically gamble for items on this guy, and there's a chance that you get like a magic item, a rare item, you know, or maybe just even a wide item. I don't know. I haven't really engaged with gambling all that much because I've been storing my gold like an absolute fiend. But basically, there's all these systems in the game that allow you to gear up. So if you are struggling, do remember there are a lot of things that you can do in order to improve yourself. And keep in mind that you should be looking for items that drop in the ground, wide items, if you have like a particular slot that is not very good. So in my case, for instance, these gloves, I've had these gloves since Act 1. They're not particularly good to begin with. It's just one of those things that I haven't really found anything that's markedly better. But I've been looking for like wide items that drop on the ground to then like do a little bit of crafting with the blue stuff like I showed you there to potentially see if I can upgrade a set of gloves that are way better than these so that I can use those. It's the same thing with boots. These boots were actually crafted. I found these boots and I started crafting into them. I got like a couple of armor, a little bit of evasion. This was actually one of those mistakes I told you. I spent way too many Regal Orbs in the beginning because I was going crazy. Keep in mind, those are somewhat of a rare thing to play with. But yeah, hopefully this video helps you guys out organizing your inventory, sorting things out. If you have specific questions, feel free to leave those in the comment section down below. I'm not like a super PoE veteran or anything like that, but I should be able to help out with some of the questions you guys might have, particularly if it's anything from the beginning of the game. I'm going to be making a couple of more guide videos kind of like this, quick and fast for newcomers to Path of Exile. And if you guys enjoyed these, subscribe, bell notification icon, all of that jazz. And for now, that's going to be it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.